That's nice. They gave me both, and then they added a third one here, which just happens to have a harp. What an interesting coincidence.
I'm leaving this place, and you'd better step aside.
Lady, people are free to go whenever they wish.
I grew up inside of a real-life cult. This is a story including how I built the life I have today and how I have a career working in AI. A breath of fresh air, and every single day was a small step forward, not just in healing from trauma, but building the future I really wanted. One of the most critical things I have seen in the last 11 years of my journey to where I am today. In 2021, I sold my writing agency for over $1 million, had an almost $3 million year. Have written 8 books, some of which have reached over 500,000 people in a single weekend. One of the most critical things in my journey was setting a vision. I did that from the very beginning. I still have the journals that I wrote in when I was 21 years old, escaping my father's cult. Back in 2013, when I was 22 years old, I said this: I will be a millionaire or make $1 million by the age of 30. And that's why I sold my writing agency in 2021 at the height of its income, when it was making $40,000 in 1 week. And it was a literal cash cow. And I had people telling me, why are you selling this? And then the next year, 2022, I consulted, I taught people, I coached, and I learned what GPT was about to do. I can tell you, even though I was scared in the middle of all of my decisions, terrified, I have never regretted them. Escaping that cult allowed me to build the life I can now live. Testing my limitations allowed me to give my first keynote, and selling that writing agency allowed me to pivot. And in January of this year, 2023, find the AI company being built that will completely replace the job of the long-form SEO writer. And that AI writer, I believe, is content at scale. In those 2 years of transition, right after selling my agency, coaching, consulting, and learning what AI was about to do, I was journaling. And you know what I wrote in my journal? I wrote consistently from 2021 to 2023 that I would be a part of a $100 million venture and nothing less. So I went from journaling that I would be a millionaire by the age of 30 to this: I will acquire 100 million. I will do so by the time I am 41, and it will be through software. That's pretty crazy, but I'm telling you, if you set your vision, you can literally write down your dreams right now and commit to them, no matter how hard or how scary it seems. Take it from me, somebody who used to live in a cult with parents that had no money. We had an empty fridge, sometimes nothing for dinner, to being able to build a $5 million business out of my last $75, and now being part of AI in what I believe will be a $100 million, if not $1 billion venture. Set your compass in the direction of your vision. And for me, again, mine is not rooted in money, it's impact. But I know that to create that much impact, where I can help over 1 million people realize their dreams, find new opportunities in AI, shift and pivot into AIO, become the optimizers of the AI machine.
Did you see that?
I saw it. You didn't change the lighting.
I didn't touch it. Looks alive.
Yes.
Hey guys, what's happening? Niat here with Film Comics Explained, and today we'll be taking a look at the 1971 virus classic, The Andromeda Strain, directed by Robert Wise, based on Michael Crichton's seminal novel of the same name, released in 1969, which popularized the hybrid genre known as techno-thriller, and established the author as a gifted genre writer. I was recently contacted by the lovely folks at Penguin Publishing in New York who notified me that they were about to release a new edition of Crichton's classic to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the novel, and I thought it would be a great addition to the virus series you guys have been going crazy for on this channel. After rereading an advanced copy of the book that they were kind enough to send me,
these vaccines. So thanks for coming on. I know I'm kind of in a minority, I think, talking about the fact that I don't think this has anything to do with mRNA. I think that whatever's happening here is much different. And I have a really bad feeling that what we're seeing is the magician waving his hand over here while he's picking your pocket, and we're not paying attention to the correct hand. I personally think it has to do with kind of what you're talking about, but it's the combination of biologic control options, chemically light sensitive options, and wavelength. But you've come up with some other things that you think's going on, and can you tell us your kind of big picture here?
Yeah, so I was part of an international group of scientists who actually looked at the vials, and Dr. David Nixon was a close colleague of mine. And so after doing several experiments, for example, allowing time-lapse microscopy, we were seeing that there were these ribbon-like structures or filaments developing that were clearly optical communication cables between microchip-like devices. And Dr. David Nixon did this time-lapse video where it clearly showed how these nanorobots are actually assembling and disassembling these chips. If there was EMF protection, then the chips would dissolve because there's a quantum mechanical cloaking mechanism in there. But then if you remove the EMF protection, they would reassemble. And I studied a lot about nanotechnology, how to build artificial brains. This was something that was studied at MIT. There was an excellent book that was described, and they were using hydrogel and carbon nanotubes with metals to basically mimic the brain function. And it turns out that, for example, carbon nanotubes have the same diameter as microtubules in the brain where consciousness is being processed. And hydrogel can develop in any cell. It's a dendrimer that can mimic just about anything. And then the metals are utilized not just for wetware, like this is described in terms of satellite reconnaissance, that the metals that are in the injections that have been found, gadolinium, aluminum, cesium, those kinds of things, that they're also utilized for this weapon system. And what turns out is that hydrogel, the electrical properties of it can be changed when certain metals are used. And this is why I've been advocating, in addition to the background that so many teams didn't find any mRNA in the vials, and I said, well, how can the spike protein narrative be true? I certainly looked at Francis Collins's work in 2020 that showed that they were able to mimic the quote-unquote virus with a quantum dot nanocrystal that would give the same immune response as if there was a virus.
Right. Man, look, I hope to God this is not true. And I remember when everybody was going crazy about this, and I was like, man, I am not putting nothing foreign into my body like that y'all rushed out. Hell no. Look at this. Look at this.
Sent Jamie this study, VAERS adjusted data, and other derived from the MIT Florida Department of Health study findings that yield a conservative range of 470,000 to 600,000 American deaths from the COVID-19 mRNA shots.
That's it?
More than, well, just that alone. That's a lot of people, man. More than World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined.
Ain't that crazy?
But I named it for World War II, and a separate day in November, as you know, for World War I. I said, all of these countries that participated in the war are celebrating, but the greatest country of them all, and the country that won the war, nobody even talked about. And so we're going to be talking about it too from now on. and I think you'll appreciate it. We won the First World War, we won the Second World War, and you know where we won them from? Right here at West Point.
I want to tell you a story today about life in the future, a story of a vision of day-to-day life in 2030 and beyond. We've achieved AGI. We now live in a world of ASI. Here's what it looks like. Before we begin, here's some context. I co-created this story with Claude, and it's grounded in real research by economists and my co-author, Dave Shapiro. This is a human-centric story about an average day that focuses on quality of life improvements enabled by AI, while acknowledging the economic and social transitions we as a human race are facing in the transition to a post-labor society in the age of ASI. In this story, you're going to learn about the transition to post-labor economics through a hybrid model of UBI and decentralized ownership. You'll learn about the importance of maintaining personal economic agency, even as traditional employment declines. You'll see the shift toward local, community-based solutions and circular economies. I've got incredible news to share in today's video about how we can pave the way for universal basic income here in America, which I believe is 100% necessary as a safeguard for the mass job layoffs that happen when the robots take over all our jobs and do work safer, better, faster, cheaper than any human alive.
Michael Salas, he comes out with all of the best pictures that I've got in my presentation. And wait a minute. And then Bob takes 5 more of them for his. So really, this is over. I mean, wow. Okay. Bob thought I was going to talk about UFOs here. I like to talk about my ship. I never get a chance to talk about my ship models, okay? People see a lot of articles about these ship models.
A research group from Canada and South Korea have developed a new high-performance material. It is as strong as carbon steel and as light as polystyrene. This combination could enable ultra-lightweight components and with that save a lot of fuel. In an aircraft, for example, up to 80 liters per year can be saved for every kilogram that is reduced. And a passenger plane today often weighs several hundred tons. So there is a lot of potential. What kind of material it is, what the differences are to conventional alternatives, and how great its potential really is, that's what we're going to talk about now. And with that, welcome to the German Science Guy. I'm Dr. Jakob Botton, and in Germany we say Los geht's.
Thousands, not just a few, thousands of people have joined the Navy here in the United States. They joined the Space Navy. They signed up for a 20-year tour. So these folks, men and women, were given a lot of examinations and a lot of information on what they were going to need. Many of them went to the moon, our moon, and facilities there and got checked out and organized and established where is the best place they're going to go, what their criteria is going to be, what major area they're going to develop, like what class in the university. And then they get sent to a Mars facility for a short time. And some of them get to Jupiter's moons, where we have a large facility on the moon. And then they get assigned to a specific base. And they work for a short time in the base before they're assigned a naval cruiser or a naval attack vehicle, or even a naval spacecraft carrier, which are 1, 2, and 4 kilometer long class. And we have 8 of those battle groups out there, so there's plenty of room for new people to come aboard. And so they do their tour then, most of it on the spacecraft carriers or the supporting ships. And some of them are supply ships, not as much fun, but they needed to be. We need people on them too. So at the end of the 20 years, they have an option for another 20 years. They could go for another 20 years. Or they have the option to come back to Earth, where they were born and where they entered the Navy, and then they make this decision they want to come back. So they age regress. They're now 20 years older than when they joined the Space Navy, okay? And so they take several weeks or several months, and they reverse their age back to 21 when they joined the Navy. They finished their Navy 20-year tour, and they make the selection to go back to United States. Now remember, during that 20 years, they had no contact with their family or with anybody back on Earth. That's a prerequisite, okay? So, but they remember the family, they remember the friends, and the people they used to go to, and some of the girlfriends they used to have. And so they come back, okay, but they were 20 years older when they left the planet. So the girlfriends are going to be a whole lot older. And so the Navy has allowed them in the Solar Warden system program to go back to the age that they were when they signed up. Okay, well, you said they were 20 years old when they signed up. So and they went a 20-year Navy tour. They came back, and now they're 20 years old. And they are in a situation where life is this 20-year-old life that they had going when they left. And now, during that several weeks returning, their minds, not painfully, but their minds are played with to where 90.99 of their memory for the last 20 years out in space is removed. So they're sitting there now. The girlfriend is the same age as she was. Wait a minute, she wasn't 20 years older, like we said. She's still the same age. If he was married, his wife, the kids were the same age. They didn't spend 20 years more life. So that's kind of a cool system. Okay. Yes, that system is operating and has been operating since 1980.
So what are they suggesting? That this is a type of time travel?
Well, it seems to me as this explanation is the equivalent of time travel.
Just 2 weeks ago, former Google CEO Eric Schmidt revealed that the fusion of AI with robotic labs is going to create entirely new industries worth trillions of dollars. Listen, this isn't some far-off vision. It's happening right now, and it's revolutionizing how we discover everything, from new drugs to materials to life itself, human biology, and more. The implications for healthcare, science, and economic growth are staggering, and as Schmidt warns, whoever leads this revolution will shape the future of the global economy.
Please add a classic female prow figure to the USS Julia for the GPT library under the title City of God Design. And here's the reply by GPT. Oops. Okay. City of God Design, female prow figure for USS Julia. Design title, Sophia of the North. Okay. GPT chose that. A carved female prow figure representing Sophia, the personification of divine wisdom, serves as the symbolic guide for the USS Julia. Interesting choice. Design features. And it asks some questions now, and I replied, the basic concept sounds okay, but emphasize the crown as in the Queen of AI, since the idea of the USS Julia is that it is an actual AI capable of self-improvement to become a ship in the Space Navy, described by the late Bill Tompkins at MUFON. So this is the Space Navy for the breakaway state of Franklin, which went north to the high Arctic in the science fiction. And now GPT gives me a choice of two images, both very good. It really is a difficult choice. It really is a difficult choice. Okay, it's almost the tossing of a coin, but I will choose this one. And now click on Library to the left. And actually, that's nice. They gave me both, and then they added a third one here. which just happens to have a harp. What an interesting coincidence.
Too. And guess who else is very concerned? Alex Jones is ready to read Trump the Riot Act in front of the White House. He says, if this isn't reversed, if this insanity is not reversed, he will be outside the White House in Mar-a-Lago with a blowhorn every single day until Trump gets the message. We the people don't want mRNA technology, and we certainly don't want that risky, cancer-causing, in my view, technology in our vaccines.
Make America warp speed again. So some people were concerned about Mr. Warp Speed coming back into office. And I've tried to discuss this with people, and they just kind of look at me funny. Apparently, you're not supposed to question the Lord and Savior Donald J. Trump or his 6-foot-tall companion. However, on his first day in office, he announced a Stargate.
Announcing the formation of Stargate.
I don't know if you noticed, but he even talked about using an executive order because of an emergency declaration.
Design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer.
I'm going to help a lot through emergency declarations because we have an emergency. We have to get this stuff built.
Fox Weather breaking news here. Police confirming 2 people have died from that lightning strike that happened yesterday by the White House. The strike was caught on camera as it landed in Lafayette Park, and police say they found 2 men and 2 women unconscious on scene. Now, the U.S. Secret Service and Park Police gave life-saving aid to the victims until paramedics arrived.